Mayo experience. Week 6. Week 6 already. We're more than a third of the way there. Rankings, debate, each position. Joining me, as he does every Tuesday, to break down the rankings from RotoExperts.com. From Fantasy Sports Network and Fantasy Radio, it's Jake Ciely. What's up?
Not too much. Hey, I got to get out of the way. Look, I was right on Jerick McKinnon, but you nailed Aaron Jones. I have to give you credit right out of the gate.
I love credit. There's nothing I enjoy more than credit. But yes, we will get into Jerick in a minute. But the big news at running back of the day, we should probably touch on it. Adrian Peterson gets dealt from the Saints to the Cardinals. The Cardinals cut Chris Johnson. People are asking me if they should use their number one waiver priority on Adrian Peterson. No, calm down, folks. Adrian Peterson reeks. You're with me on this one, right?
Oh, 100%. I love your response to that one person that asked the Twitter question. What was it, Duke Johnson and somebody else for Adrian Peterson? And you said it's like the most god-awful trade ever. I was like thinking the exact same thing.
Yeah, Duke Johnson's good.
I know. Adrian Peterson's garbage. Adrian Peterson was garbage last year before he got hurt. He's garbage again with the Saints. I don't understand why anybody thinks things are going to change, especially when he's going to a team that passes the ball 70% of the time.
Yeah, so he's leaving a team. Yes, there is more confusion in the backfield with that awful Mark Ingram and Alvin Kamara ahead of him on the depth chart, so he's only seeing 10 snaps a game. But at least New Orleans had a good offensive line. If he was actually going to do something, he would be able to run behind that. Now he goes to a team that passes all the time and has a terrible offensive line.
Yep, I said he's toast and the offensive line is soggy bread. Good luck in enjoying him out there. I talked about, I updated like you did, I updated my waiver column, and I said I'd still go pick up Wayne Gallman as a flyer before adding Adrian Peterson.
Oh, God, yes. In my waiver column, I updated my rankings. I think I have him as the 12th best running back to pick up. Best case scenario with Adrian Peterson is for the Cardinals to be out in front in a lot of these games, which they just haven't been all season. So at best, you're looking at 50% of the snaps, and even that's not going to be the case. Andre Ellington is going to be the superior play in both. And what's his upside? What Chris Johnson was doing? Nothing? Great. Thanks. Have that guy on your team.
Chris Johnson might have had more left in the tank than Adrian Peterson does. It's exactly like you said. That's a very good comparison for everybody out there that wants to wonder what the upside is. It's just Chris Johnson. And I don't think this team is going to have a lot of leads because at some point every single season, it's around week 4 or 5, sometimes we have to realize our opinions are going to have to change. We can't just keep assuming things. And at this point, I brought this up earlier this week with Rich Rebar, a friend of ours. We were talking on Twitter. The Arizona defense is not any good outside of Patrick Peterson.
Yeah, that's it. They're going to be giving up points. Man, they were giving up points to the 49ers. Let's be real here. They're not a great team. Andre Ellington has been, their garbage time sensation, just piling up double-digit targets every single week. I don't care if it's standard or PPR. I just much prefer to have Ellington. And as we'll get into the rankings this week, it will reflect that. I have Andre Ellington inside the top 20. I have Adrian Peterson at, one sec, let me scroll down a little bit here. Oh,
worst place?
Number 46. He should be in worst place. The only upside to Adrian Peterson is that he gets goal line carries and he vultures touchdowns. That's it.
And who knows how many of those are going to happen because Carson Palmer usually just throwing in the red zone.
Exactly. So I don't understand. I get that people want to believe in AP. He's 32 years old. He's been washed up for 2 years, and now he's in the worst position he's been in ages. Give me a break. Put it this way. If you have Adrian Peterson on your team, for whatever reason that you were still holding him, use this trade, reverse the spin, try to trade him for any usable piece, and be on your way.
Absolutely. If you're not doing that, you're doing fantasy wrong. Although I will say this, and I'm a big fan of his as much as you are, but I would do the same for Alvin Kamara. I know his upside is even a little bit better now that Peterson's gone, but people are going bonkers over Kamara right now, and I would definitely look to sell high on him if you need help elsewhere.
All right, well, let's talk about Alvin Kamara in the Saints' backfield for a second. I don't think that it's outrageous to think that Kamara's value goes up. One of the big things that I had against Kamara was that it was so easy for him to be written out in any given week. Not that he has been, but all of a sudden he could be third on the team in snaps, and then he has 2 points, regardless if it's PPR or it's standard. Now, with Peterson out of the equation, I know he wasn't doing the same thing that Kamara does, but just having one less guy in this offense allows him, at least his snap base, to remain relatively consistent, whether it's 40% or if they're down in games, 60% over that awful Mark Ingram. So I do think that he remains a low-end running back 2 in PPR formats, but I wouldn't value him anything higher than that.
I completely agree, but that's the issue, though, is a lot of people are pushing him to that high-end RB2, talking about, all of a sudden, oh, he's going to be so amazing now that he's free of Adrian Peterson, who, as you mentioned at the top of this entire debate, was only getting about 10 touches or even 10 snaps per game a lot of times. And don't forget, for everybody out there, Willie Snead's coming back. So to your point, where the snaps will be consistent, it's not necessarily going to guarantee that the touches are going to be consistent, but remember, he's Darren Sproles' appeal. Darren Sproles, during his prime there, was catching 70, 80 balls that 1 year. So there's definitely the RB2 upside, but people thinking it's a little bit more than that, all of a sudden, a reactionary thinking, oh, I might have an RB1 in my hands in PPR. You just flip Kamara. You just at least go field offers out there. You don't have to trade him. Just like you said with Adrian Peterson and Kamara, I would consider both. And Mark Ingram, heck, him too.
Let's not talk about Mark Ingram. Mark Ingram can be saved for a different show. But for me, I saw this on Twitter, and I was kind of surprised to see it. Someone asked me, should they trade Kamara for Jay? Now, I understand the circumstances. One just seems like it fell into a great position. And Ajayi's been god-awful, but, I'd make that trade 100 times out of 100.
Absolutely. The only concern with MbLcjJ is the knee and the fact he doesn't have a bye week at this point. But if you're shooting for upside, it's basically MbLcj's floor is Kamara's not quite ceiling, because I think he's got a little bit higher ceiling than his floor. But you're kind of mixing and matching the fact that you're going to take the downside of MbLcjJ and match it with the upside of Kamara. And then if MbLcjJ ever bounces back, you won everything right there. So yeah, that's what I'm talking about. That's a perfect example.
Yeah, so, and I was kind of surprised that sort of deal existed, but apparently it does. So if you have Kamara, that's the type of offer that you should be going to shoot for right now. If not, hold on to him, because he's still valuable.
Yeah.
Don't trade him.
Jordan Howard is another one I would go after, because people are down after that game, not realizing if that call that terrible holding call doesn't happen. Jordan Howard had a huge game.
I actually liked how Jordan Howard looked in the Monday Nighter, but in terms of Kamara versus Ajayi, to say that I would do the trade 100 times out of 100. I would, but I'm not guaranteeing you that Ajayi will be better than Alvin Kamara, but I just look at a guy who's a primary back, gets over 85% of the snaps and touches in his backfield. Sure, they haven't been very valuable so far, and that knee is somewhat concerning, but we're playing for upside here. Ajayi still has the potential, just based on volume, to be a running back one, or even a mid-tier running back two. Best case scenario for Kamara is that he works into a bigger piece of a split, and then, he's a mid-tier running back two, potentially a low-end one in PPR formats. And that's best case scenario. Ajayi just has a much easier chance to back his way into that. Plus, if he gets good again, then boom, he's a top 5 guy.
Yeah, 100%. And that's the way we deal with a lot of times, is people on Twitter. I got people asking me start switch questions on Sunday, what's more upside? And this is the perfect example. This is the more upside trade. And what's more upside in my lineup this week? I need points. Well, this is the more upside guy, but it could be a risk. And then they come back, well, that didn't work out. Well, you asked for the upside. A lot of times the upside carries more risk.
All right, so for reference this week, I have Alvin Kamara at number 27 in my PPR rankings. That's one spot behind Chris Thompson. I can move on that one, though. I can actually move him up there. I think that's a weird cluster of guys that are sort of pass-catching specialists with a bit of touchdown upside as well. And Ajayi in my rankings, I have at number 20. I just want to see something from him first, but he's still getting that volume that you do need to start him unless you do have superior options in your lineup. Let's move to Jerick McKinnon, though, who I thought Latavius Murray would be the pickup. I was wrong. It looks like it's Jerick McKinnon. He was the workhorse Monday night against the Bears. However, I've seen big Jerick games before, and then I've seen Jerick disappear into dust. People are going to be dropping Latavius Murray. I would go pick up Latavius Murray if he's dropped, because you get him for basically nothing right now. And this could flip back the other way next week. I don't want to say that with the way that Jerick looked Monday night and the volume that he was getting, he's an RB1 the rest of the season. I don't think that's going to be the case.
No, neither do I. And the thing is, I got somebody on Twitter was like, "Oh, thank you so much for loving Jerick McKinnon so much." I'm like, "Oh, hold on. I've never loved Jerick McKinnon so much. I just really love the opportunity, because I looked at the last 8 games of last year when Pat Shurmur took over for the last 9 games, and those last 8 games, once that they got a little bit of adjustment in that first game under Shurmur, is he was on pace over a full season. And I know that's always difficult to do, and that's sometimes a fool's errand to do that, but those last 8 games put McKinnon on the pace for 70 receptions, not targets, receptions. And that was the appeal that I had here, and that's why I was high on Jerick McKinnon. But to your point, like you said, we've seen this before. Latavius Murray is still the goal line option. If they have a commanding lead where they maybe get up by 7, 10, 14, then you are going to see more of Latavius Murray. Do not drop him. As you said, if he's out there, go pick him up. And this is another one. If you want to field offers just to see out there, go see what you can get for Jerick McKinnon, because very similar to Kamara, if somebody's going to give you RB1 value for him, immediately trade him.
If you check out my updated waiver wire column and you watch watch this before waivers pass. I've moved Jarek up to number 1 in my pickups right now. I mean, it's a very enticing situation. If he can maintain this volume, he's going to be excellent. But I do have my concerns. We didn't see the Vikings run any play from inside the 8-yard line. Who's going to be on the field then? Especially in a situation where they need to kind of not run to keep the clock from going too much in that close game. That, if they're up, is Latavius Murray in the game? We don't know the answers to these questions. And if they do get up and Sam Bradford's all of a sudden healthy and he can throw the ball downfield again, well, then maybe Murray is the superior option. So I would use the number 1 waiver priority on Jarek because of the upside. And again, for reference this week, I have him ranked at number 16 in my week 6 rankings. That's one spot behind Doug Martin. But I'm just not a true believer to the extent that he's going to be able to keep up this volume. I mean, he's not a big dude. I don't want to project onto him that he's going to get injured, but giving the guy 20 plus touches a game might be a bit much for his frame.
100%. That's the biggest concern here. We've also, like you said, your very first point is we've seen this before from Jerick McKinnon. It's not an unknown quantity here, and the fact that we don't know if he's like Aaron Jones, we haven't seen him before. Well, McKinnon we've seen before. We've seen him disappear. We've seen his size. We've seen the fact that if he tries to run between the tackles, he's not always successful without the lanes being there or finding new lanes because he's not a big boy. And that's the thing. If I'm the Vikings, I don't want him touching the ball 20 plus times because similar to Ty Montgomery, you're going to break him.
All right, let's get to the Week 6 running back rankings from top to bottom, and I want to put an injury indemnity on this. If you go to dkplaybook.com, you will see if I have anyone listed as doubtful, that means I expect them not to play, but that changes during the week, and there's not a whole lot of information about running backs out there right now. So guys I have that are questionable/doubtful that are in the rankings, just Rex Burkhead right now with his ribs, and he might not even play. He's not very high in the rankings, so don't worry too much about him. However, guys I have listed as doubtful right now, and this impacts how other people fall into the rankings. I have Matt Forte and Bilal Powell as out. Orleans Darkwa and Paul Perkins as out. Ty Montgomery as out. Wendell Smallwood, it definitely looks like he's not going to play Thursday night with his knee problem. Brendan Oliver and Terrence West both out as well. And David Johnson, Danny Woodhead obviously not playing. Now, the big wrenches that can be thrown into some of these situations, the Giants backfield, the Packers backfield. So when we go to the top of the rankings, Lev Bell remains number 1. Todd Gurley and Leonard Fournette playing against each other, number 2 and number 3. Then it goes Kareem Hunt, Melvin Gordon, Devonta Freeman, Aaron Jones, C.J. Anderson, Lamar Miller, and Carlos Hyde, even coming after the hot hand comments. I think that's just all misdirection. I think we're going to see Carlos Hyde be healthier with his hip again, and I think that he'll be fine. If he's bad again, I'll have to reassess and deal with another 0.1 points in my lineup and be on my way. But that's a risk I'm willing to take for a guy who should see a lot of volume. Although the Redskins defense has been very good, losing Josh Norman may have a ripple effect all the way into the front 7. If they don't have that kind of time, people might be able to pass on them. They'll have to drop guys more back, opening up running lanes for Carlos Hyde. Do you have any problems with anyone inside this top 10? Obviously, Aaron Jones is ranked there again because I don't expect Montgomery to play. If Montgomery plays, obviously this changes.
Yeah, actually, that's the only one, and it's not far. I would move Aaron Jones behind C.J. Anderson and Lamar Miller only because of the matchup. Only in Minnesota. Minnesota's run defense has been one of the best this year so far. And I know you can go to the Jordan Howard situation, and we talked about it before, and the fact that that doesn't get called back, well, that obviously would take a dent in it. But for most of that game, outside of Jordan Howard, who's a bigger boy, what they did against the rest of the team, I just look at it, I'm a little hesitant. I wouldn't trust Jones, put it that way, over C.J. Anderson and Lamar Miller. But those are 2 running backs that I just trust. And that's really what it comes down to. And it's strange because I didn't trust Lamar Miller headed into the season. So 2 spots on him. I'm with you on Carlos Hyde. I just think Carlos Hyde is kind of similar to MbLcjJ in the fact that his hip instead of a knee. And you're going to be dealing with his hip all year long like MbLcjJ is dealing with the knee all year long. I'm with you. I think that's just hubbub from last week and that he's still the lead option. But if it's starting to bother him in any given game and they don't need him, that's my only big concern is you can find him standing on the sidelines again.
Is Matt Breida someone you would play this week in anticipation? Because I wouldn't unless I was super desperate. But I do think that he's incredibly ownable right now.
No, yeah, look, before the season started, I said Matt Breida, as soon as they sent Joe Williams to the IR and got rid of Hightower, I said Breida is a must-own immediately. Carlos Hyde has had 9 different injuries in his career. The guy hasn't even been in the league for 4 years. 9 different injuries. Breida was always a must-own. He's still a must-own as of today. I don't understand what people are waiting for. We've already had the warning scare on that Thursday night game. We saw the usage last week. I don't know what more we have to tell people to get them to pick up Matt Breida, but he's a must-own. I don't care what kind of league you're in. Even a 10-team league, you need to pick him up. But, yes, there's no way I'm starting him because he is the backup option unless I'm very needy at running back.
11 to 20 in the rankings. Duke Johnson has done enough, and especially with a very positive passing game script this week against Houston. He comes in at number 11 in the Week 6 running back rankings. Then we go to Andre Ellington at 12. Like I said, I don't care about Adrian Peterson. This is a pass-catching offense. I want the pass-catching back. DeMarco Murray, Jordan Howard, Doug Martin, Jerick McKinnon, Elijah McGuire, Christian McCaffrey, Amir Abdullah, and Jay Ajayi. Now, I think this is where stuff gets twisted a little bit. I bet you I'm higher on Duke Johnson and Andre Ellington than the pack. I don't know that for sure, but after seeing those numbers next to their names, because I always make my rankings, I don't put the numbers in, I just have a list of people, because I feel like once you start seeing numbers next to people's names, psychologically it can throw you off when you're trying to do rankings, so I always do it after, then sort them by numbers. I'm like, that's super high for these guys. Screw it, I'm going with it. And that's what I'm doing with Johnson and Ellington here. Their floors are so high.
You're right, especially in a PPR. I have long-term concerns about Ellington once the schedule starts to change a little bit, and mostly because he's similar to that Chris Thompson, Tariq Cohen. He's like, if he's not getting the passing volume.
But he is getting the passing volume.
He is, but John Brown is healthy for another week. He's coming back. There's 4 receivers. And now we have this whole edition of the mess. I just don't know if we can really bank on 7, 8, 9 receptions per week. Like, seriously, if he's not getting that, and he's only getting 4 or 5, still valuable in PPR. You're still using him as an RB2. But 4 or 5 is a big difference from 8 or 9, which puts him where you have him right now is like the 8 range. I just worry for one of those games where he only gets 4. And I go back to Chris Thompson. It's just a perfect example of what we saw right before the bye is if the game script's not there or if the game gets thrown off and they're not using them, you're going to be looking at somebody that you wish was on your bench. So I'm with you this week. It's a nice matchup. But I just long-term, that's all I'm saying, is long-term concerns for him. I actually really like most of your rankings in this list, honestly.
What would you do with Elijah McGuire? Of course, this really depends on Powell and Forte. It doesn't look like Forte is going to play basically for sure. And then if Powell ends up coming back with his calf injury, then it throws a bit of a wrench into the situation. But he's probably going to be limited either way. McGuire was an excellent pass catcher in college, and it seems like they want to use him a little bit more. And you couldn't ask for a better dream matchup than against the Patriots' terrible defense.
Yeah, you're right. He's very similar to Tariq Cohen. That's what I said a couple of weeks ago when I said for people to pick him up. It's just somebody to stash for the future. It ended up working out because of the injuries. Not that I was trying to say bank on injuries. It's just projections. It's just the ability to see what potentially could come. And fortunately, if anybody picked him up, this is what's happening. You're right. It's a great matchup. They're going to be down. They're going to have to pass. He's going to be used in the passing game. They really don't have anything else. I don't think Bilal Powell plays, but as you said, even if he does, he's probably going to be limited. I think Elijah McGuire is in line for 20-plus targets, and if you're going to do that against the Patriots defense, which has just led up, I think, the third most yards and receptions to running backs, it's a matchup made in heaven.
What do you make of Doug Martin? Obviously, he looked good in the Thursday nighter, but I think people are overrating how great he was. I mean, he played the Patriots. Let's calm down here, people. I know we just mentioned that the Cardinals' defense isn't all that great either. They have been a bit stingier to running backs, at least. They've been beaten up through the air. Do you think that he has the potential to be a running back one, or is Doug Martin someone that maybe people are a bit too high on at the moment? You might try to sell him high.
Both, honestly. He's always had potential to be an RB1. He's been an RB1 twice in his career, but he's also been abysmal 3 to the 5 years. So you have 2 great seasons, 3 abysmal ones. One of those abysmal ones being last year. Doug Martin did look great in that game, as you mentioned, and I actually feel a little bit better than I would have if it was the first 4 weeks or the first 3 weeks because the Patriots defense overall played a little bit better. Still not great. Still one that you have to say, let's take it with a grain of salt. And I think this week will be very telling. So basically what I said coming out of that game on Thursday night when people are asking what you're asking right now, I said top 15-ish the rest of the way. I'm not calling it an RB1 until I see him against a better defense and I get a little bit more visual on him. But I think that this is a very telling week. And if he has another great week, which that game was, I think you have to put him in the RB1 conversation. I mean, just look at the running back landscape right now.
Would you trade Doug Martin for Jay Ajayi? Because I would.
I would if I was going for broke and my other running back was solid, but if my other running back was dicey, like I already owned Jordan Howard or somebody like that, then no, I wouldn't.
Would you trade Doug Martin for Jordan Howard?
Yes.
Would you trade Doug Martin for DeMarco Murray?
No, I don't think I would at this point.
I would.
Really?
Yeah, I think DeMarco Murray's a nice buy low with everyone just kind of off the band.
I love DeMarco Murray.
I like DeMarco Murray, and this could work out to be a huge bust potential versus Martin. But when Mariota comes back, they get everything rolling. You can still run on Jacksonville. You can run on Houston. You can run on the Colts. They have a lot of gravy matchups towards the end of the season. All he needs to do is fend off Derrick Henry. And just based on Mariota not being there, and we look at the Miami game, they leaned on DeMarco Murray heavily. Didn't work out because Matt Castle reeks, but he's someone that I could see still getting 65 to 70%. And maybe I'm just not sold on Doug Martin. Maybe that's it for me. Like, I think one of the best moves that you can make right now is take Doug Martin and offer him up to the Amari Cooper owner in your league, trade for Amari Cooper and another complimentary piece.
Yes.
Whether it's a low-end wide receiver 3, maybe a running back 3, someone you could potentially use. Just because I think that right now you can get Amari Cooper for basically free. And I'm not even that big of an Amari Cooper fan. It's just people just don't want him anymore.
No, I'm getting trade questions on Twitter where like he's a throw-in. And I was just like, what? Like, I'm attacking every Amari Cooper owner I could find because if people are willing to throw him in or even potentially I had somebody ask if they should drop him. Look, I'm with you. I've been called an Amari Cooper hater. My biggest thing is I keep calling him a poor man's Brandon Cooks, and that's a little bit tongue-in-cheek, but the truth is he is Brandon Cooks in the fact that he has 4 or 5 huge games that people think are going to happen for the entire season because of his talent, and he's just not. That's just what he is. Now, he's still 23, still could turn things around, 2 straight seasons to start his career of over 1,000 yards. He's better than this, but understand the ceiling there. So the fact that he's better than this and people are willing to give up on him, absolutely go get him.
Yeah, the move is to buy Amari Cooper low and then get Derek Carr back to full health. Probably, he might play this week, but like next week, have Amari Cooper go off and then flip him for like 400% of what you paid for him.
It's like playing the stock market. You're right.
It is, and it's weird because Amari Cooper is one of those people that people love to get behind. When he's good, people think that, you mentioned it, that he's always going to be good, and we just know that's not the case. Sammy Watkins is like this too. Like, if Sammy Watkins, people are talking about dropping him right now. If somehow he goes out against the Jags, has a giant week, just sell him immediately because it's not going to happen every week.
You couldn't be more right. I did it. Actually, the funny thing is, last week before the games, I traded Sammy Watkins for Amari Cooper.
Oh, wow. That's actually a really nice trade. I like that. Let's get to the rest of the running back rankings, 20 to 30, and this is where it gets a bit dicey again. Tevin Coleman, Buck Allen, Rob Kelly, Marshawn Lynch, Mike Gillislee, Chris Thompson, Alvin Kamara, Theo Riddick, Latavius Murray, and then Frank Gore. I'm worried, not that Marlon Mack is going to become the starter in Indianapolis, but if he starts getting a bigger piece of this pie or he gets his own set of downs to come in and work with and Frank Gore's on the bench, like Frank Gore's already being blocked out in the red zone anyway. Like, this leaves his floor very, very low.
It does, and this biggest thing is he's finally hit the wall. Well, he already hit the wall like 2 years ago.
He's still better than AP.
Yeah, he's just like kind of pushing against the wall and kept it like moving just a little bit. But this is finally he's toast at this point. A little bit more than AP. You're still right talent-wise as of today, but it definitely looks like we're probably looking at timeshare going forward. Marlon Mack is going to continue to eat into his touches. I like Martin. If you read my profile from the draft, I said he's a talented runner who sometimes thinks he can do more than he can instead of just taking what's given to him. So if he's got that intelligence added to his skills, Marlon Mack is going to take over. It'll maybe next year because Gore doesn't go anywhere. But if Gore ever got hurt, finally, ever, you would see probably RB2 value from Marlon Mack. The only one I have in my highlighted list here is I like Chris Thompson more than you do. I have him further up because the matchup, the 49ers, third most receptions, third most yards to running backs. They gave up 9 and 80-something to Andre Ellington, speaking of a comparable running back, and I think this is going to be a Chris Thompson game.
It could be, but with Washington as big favorites in this game, I think they'll have the ability to control the ball on the ground, thus my ranking of Rob Kelly a little bit higher. Plus, you get Jordan Reed, who theoretically should be healthy at this point, and just that bye week coming off, I just don't see Chris Thompson playing any more than like 40% of the snaps because I don't think that they're going to have to be in a lot of passing situations because that game against the Cardinals were down for most of that game. They had to pass.
Right. So, you're right. I think it's still going to be a decent amount of his opportunities on. I just think this is going to be a passing game like they have been. But you could definitely. I think the bigger factor for me is if Jamison Crowder's healthy.
Yeah, after the week off, you think that he'd be closer to full health, wouldn't you?
I would think so. I would hope so. We can talk about him when we get to the wide receivers.
I buried him in my rankings. Like, I just don't trust him.
I highlighted him. I have him higher.
Yeah, I would imagine because I have him super low. Some other key names to hit on here, the 31 to 40 range. Won't go through everyone, but I do have Wayne Gallman at number 32, LeGarrette Blount at 33, Clement is at 42, Kenyon Barner's at 48. I don't really know what to make of that backfield. With Philly going to Carolina, I think that Barner played a lot of passing downs last week, but didn't do anything in the passing game, so it's really tough to tell if he is going to be their pass-catching running back, should Smallwood be out. If that's the case, he might actually have value in a situation where they do have to pass a lot here.
Yeah, I can see that there's potential there. It's just going to be a very, as you said, it's just a hard one to figure out what's going on with if we figure out the health of everybody first.
Yeah, and if if anything, Blunt is the best bet for a touchdown. But against Carolina's defense, yeah, I mean, I don't even think it's as good as 50-50.
Yeah, exactly. You're right.
And this is a Gallman ranking knowing, or at least assuming, that Perkins and Darkwa don't play. But, like, Denver has actually been the stingiest defense to opposing fantasy running back so far this season, which was always sort of the anti-narrative about them, is they shut down everyone in the pass and everyone could just sort of run on them. That hasn't been the case so far this season. So he might get 65% of the snaps. I just don't know how useful it's going to be. And if Vereen's still healthy and they're trailing, they might just... stupid Vereen, man. If Vereen didn't exist, Gallman would have like 20 catches this week.
It's very possible, but yeah, I would have Gallman lower, especially in a PPR for that reason. As you said, it's kind of the reverse of what we've always been assuming, that people are incorrectly assuming. Like you said, the narrative's been wrong. They've been middle of the pack against the run for the past 3 years and dominant against the pass, and all of a sudden they're dominant against the run and struggling to stop the pass all of a sudden. Well, guess what? The Giants can't pass. I'm actually surprised that the defense is only 4,000 on DraftKings. I thought it was going to be like 6,000.
Yeah, that's true. And the good thing about Gallman that I liked from last week is that he did soak up some. He had 4 receptions and he had a bunch of targets. Right. So the fact that he's not going to be absent from the passing game, I do like that.
That is true, but I'm worried that Darkwa might be out there even at less than 100% healthy because Ben McAdoo just has a you-know-what for him.
Let's move to wide receivers. The guys that I'm looking at as playing right now, Julio Jones, Stefon Diggs. He has a groin pull. He did come back into the Monday Nighter, though. And Devontae Parker with his ankle. He's real fringy, though, although I did list him in the rankings right now. Guys that are doubtful, so they are not in. Mike Williams, Kenny Golladay, Corey Davis, Sterling Shepard, Mohamed Sanu, and Kenny Britt. Out, I have Corey Coleman, of course, Odell Beckham, and Brandon Marshall are finished for the season. Chris Conley as well for Kansas City with an Achilles tear. So number 1 in the rankings, Antonio Brown. DeAndre Hopkins, number 2. Julio Jones, Michael Thomas, Jordy Nelson, T.Y. Hilton, Keenan Allen, Stefon Diggs, even with that groin injury against the Packers, Chris Hogan, and Tyreek Hill. You want to keep rolling through these? Because, I mean, those are top 10 guys, right?
Yeah, they're top 10 guys. I wouldn't have Tyreek Hill that high, but that's it.
How high do you have Tyreek Hill, do you think?
I would have him behind Devontae Adams, honestly.
And I have Devontae Adams at 15?
Yeah.
All right, well, you're playing both of them anyway, so 11.
Yeah, exactly. You're playing them. It's just the matchup's really bad.
11 to 20, you have Alshon, Brandon Cooks, Demaryius Thomas, Larry Fitzgerald, Devontae Adams, Martavis Bryant, Devin Funches, Will Fuller, Emmanuel Sanders, and Lucky Pierre Galsine, now that there is no Josh Norman around in Washington to lock him down. So those are my top 20. Who are some of the highlight guys that you think that I have too low or too high outside of Tyreek Hill? Because I'm playing Tyreek Hill.
The only ones that I have highlighted, I have Kelvin Benjamin highlighted because Devin Funches is supposed to play, but he's banged up, and this is a terrific matchup where I think Kelvin Benjamin gets on track. It's really about the matchup. I mean, look at the Eagles secondary. They can't stop anybody. So I like Funches and Benjamin, but I think Benjamin should be higher just for the fact that it doesn't sound like Funches is going to be 100%. I highlighted Deshaun Jackson. I think this is a terrific matchup for the fact that the Cardinals suck outside of Patrick Peterson, so I look for him to take advantage of that. And if you look at the receivers that they look at last week, look at what the Eagles just did to them with their secondary receivers of Torrey Smith and Nelson Aguilar. So I think Deshaun Jackson is going to have a very nice week. And then Tyrell Williams, I have higher given the matchup as well. I hate trying to predict that. Look, it's frustrating as hell. I'm not buy the cake, not the icing. But at the same time, this is one of those weeks where I will try to dive in. And then you already knew about Jameson Crowder.
So for reference, I have Terrell Williams at number 38. I have Deshaun Jackson at number 27. I agree he's a good play. Like, in my mind, I would want to start him over Mike Evans. I have Mike Evans at number 22 in the rankings with that matchup with Patrick Peterson. But last year, when these teams squared off, Mike Evans did have 6 catches and a touchdown against Patrick Peterson. Fortunately, it was on 18 targets. I just don't know if he's going to get to 18 targets again. So in my mind, if I had more guts, I would rank Djax over Mike Evans, but I just can't do it.
I don't see how you can either. And Mike Evans did catch a touchdown over Janoris Jenkins, another shutdown corner earlier this year. So it's not that I want to start Deshaun Jackson over Mike Evans. I just think that Deshaun Jackson's going to be able to take advantage of how piss poor the rest of that defense has been.
Do you think that Derek Carr is actually going to play? Because I just don't believe it.
I don't either. It's like the little meme or the little gif from Anchorman. It's like the tap of the table and I don't believe you. That's just like kept throwing through my mind. And when I kept hearing this last week, I mean, the dude has a transverse fracture of the this knocked out Tony Romo for how long? And then Tony Romo tried to come back and then got hurt again. And I know he's older, but at the same time, I mean, he fractured his friggin' back.
Yeah. Just leave him be, especially against the Chargers, man. Bosa, Ingram, they're going to be on his case.
Like, this is your franchise future quarterback. You're a playoff contending team. I don't see the logic behind it.
So in my rankings, I have a potentially banged up Derek Carr as the baseline for the Oakland receivers. So I have Michael Crabtree at number 26, and I have Amari Cooper at number 37. I know I just said buy low on Amari Cooper, but if a banged up Derek Carr is the quarterback, or Ej Manuel, then I don't have the highest hopes.
Well, and he's also got a tough matchup with Casey Hayward, so.
Unless they decide to say, you know what, we'll put our best corner on Oakland's best receiver and get him to shut down Michael Crabtree.
That is true.
People never want to believe that. This is like the third year in a row Crabtree's been better.
Hey, my bold prediction on our site at the beginning of the season was for the third straight year, Michael Crabtree is the better receiver in standard NPPR.
Yeah, in my preseason rankings, I had Crabtree ahead of him. And there's no single ranking I took more heat for. That and having Leonard Fournette inside the top 6 of running backs. People didn't want to believe that for a second.
I'm with you. I love it. Internet high five. Yay.
Yeah, we finally, listen, I don't like to talk about the things I get wrong because this isn't a 4-hour show. So I'll just highlight the things that I get right because we're trying to condense it down. It makes myself feel good after all the hate that comes my way when I make terrible decisions, which is all the time. The 5% of things I get right, I like to highlight. So this entire 21 to 30 range, I have Mike Evans at 21, Kelvin Benjamin at 22, Thielen 23, Golden Tate 24, Jarvis Landry at 25. That is assuming Devontae Parker plays but is limited. Michael Crabtree, Deshaun Jackson, Jermaine Kearse, Devontae Parker, and Terrell Pryor. I know Pryor had the nice game the last time we saw him out against KC, but it's not like he was a huge member of that passing game. He just caught a deep one, and that's kind of what he's up to right now.
He caught a pass interference one. That if it actually got called like it should have, we'd be having a whole different conversation about Terrell Pryor, where it's like just people wanted to drop him, but he had that touchdown, and all of a sudden people are like, he'll be fine. But outside of that catch, which I always hate the argument of, well, if you take that away. But if you take away something that was a pass interference play and you look at the rest of the game, it was nothing, just like his entire season has been. So I'm with you. I don't see how you can rank him higher than a wide receiver 3. Obviously has more upside than that, but I don't see how you trust him right now.
31 to 40, Danny Amendola comes in at number 31. I know they're big favorites in this game, and you would think, hey, Mike Gillislee running the ball, but the Patriots have been winning in games, and Mike Gillislee hasn't been on the field. So Amendola just seems like a lock for 6 catches for pencil in low yardage every single week.
It's like 80% of Edelman, which is great.
Yeah, listen, he's just a safe floor in PPR. He's a guy you can run as your wide receiver 3 every week and feel pretty good about it. I feel good about it. He's number 31. Marv Jones, 32. Cooper Kupp, Robbie Anderson against this Patriots defense again. I have Kearse and Anderson, both as top 35 options here. Randall Cobb historically struggles against the Vikings while Jordy and Devontae Adams eat them up, at least over the past 2 years. That's why he's down on this list. Sammy Watkins, who knows? He's probably 36 is probably way too high. He should be 63, but I'm sticking with him. Maybe he can break a big one. Amari Cooper, Terrell Williams, Alan Hearns, Rashard Matthews, Indir Willie Snead. John Brown I have listed as the second highest of the Cardinals receivers. I think he's getting closer to full health, so I'll play him. Ted Ginn, Taylor Gabriel without Mohamed Sanu. Ricardo Louis. I like this Ricardo Louis guy.
Yeah,
so,
he's nice.
Yeah, Hogan likes him too, and I think Hogan's going to start.
It sounds like it's almost official. I mean, Hugh Jackson came out and said that he thinks the benching will be good for DeShone Kizer, which makes it sound like he's not starting this week. So I would be going with that. And Ricardo Lewis is their number 1 wide receiver. There was a potential that it was going to be Rashard Higgins. That didn't happen. And now it's Lewis.
Or Kason Williams now.
Yeah, I still think it's Lewis, obviously. And to go back to your one before, Sammy Watkins I actually would have lower. I look at the matchup. I don't see how he does anything this week.
Yeah, I don't know. Sammy Watkins is one of those people you either have to commit to playing every single week or just don't own him. Because the only time he has good weeks is when he's on your bench.
That's very true, and that's why I don't ever that was the only league I owned him in, was the one that I traded him away for Amari Cooper, because I'm with you. I don't ever want to deal with that. Go back to the Santana Moss. It's the same thing. Okay, you're going to get 4 or 5 games this year. You just have to keep him in your lineup because you're going to pick the wrong weeks and then it's going to be on your bench.
And weirdly enough, I think matchup's kind of irrelevant for him. Either he's on and catches a big one, or he does absolutely nothing. We've seen him do.
That's fair.
We've seen him do nothing in great matchups, and we've seen him go off in really tough matchups. He's just bizarre. I don't like him, and I don't want him on my team.
Well, it's true. I was going to say, although, did you know that Cooper Kupp has a red zone target and every single game is in the top 5 for red zone targets this year?
Yeah, he has half of Jared Goff's red zone targets. I like Cooper Kupp. Where do I have Cooper Kupp? I have him at 33.
You have him higher. Yeah, you have a good spot.
I've had him, I think, higher every single week. I like Cooper Kupp a lot. And people are giving him heat for dropping the touchdown pass last week. Like,
It was a difficult catch.
Yeah, let's be real here. Why don't you just make a better throw, Jared Goff?
Like Cooper Kupp, the only reason I was surprised he didn't catch it is because his hands are so good. But that was not an easy catch to make. I don't understand why people are just sitting at home. This happened a week before, and I forget what receiver it was, but it was in the end zone. He came down on it, and he came on the ball, like down on it, and bounced off of it, and the ball popped out. People were like, "Oh, that should have been a touchdown." Like, really? At least the people sitting at home on their couches, that should have been a catch.
So the rest of the rankings after Louis go Woods, Wallace, Kendall Wright, Jamison Crowder, and then J.J. Nelson. Build your case for Jamison Crowder because he's been god-awful this year.
He has been god-awful, and there's no doubt about it. There's only two things I can say. Matchup really good, and then I think he hasn't been 100%, and I'm hoping this week off has gotten him to 100%. Obviously, we're going to watch the practice reports, but the fact is, if you watch Kirk Cousins in the preseason, if you watch him in the regular season, he still keeps looking to Jamison Crowder first, second, very often throughout the game. It's just Crowder's not separating because he's not 100%. So if it sounds like he's 100%, that's why I feel so good about him. But obviously, that will change as we do all the time with our rankings. I'm going to rank him higher as of today. Come Friday, if he's limited practice every day, I'm going to move him further down like you have him.
Yeah, I think I would want to see it 1 week. Listen, Jamison Crowder's not making or breaking my week. So right. I would rather bench him and have him go off than have him in my lineup and see him get 1 point again.
No, I can understand that. I think it's going to be kind of tough to bench him, though, coming off the bye and the fact that we have 4 more buys this week.
I mean, yeah, you're losing all your receiving core from the Bills.
No, but you got the Bengals, the Seahawks. There's a couple out there.
That's like 2 guys. It's A.J. Green and Doug Baldwin. Who else are you starting?
What's the other? There's one more team. The Cowboys. You're losing Dez Bryant, too.
Sure. So you have, but between that, if you started Beasley last week, you were a genius. I didn't do so, but if you did, congrats to you. But like all the periphery options for those teams, whether it be LaFell or, John Ross wasn't playing and Boyd is now like on drug charges and he's hurt too. But like you weren't starting anyone on the Bills. You weren't starting Beasley. You weren't starting Williams. You weren't starting Bryce Butler. You're really not starting P. Rich or Tyler Lockett. Like the only 3 guys that you're down right now are Baldwin, Dez, and A.J. Green. It's a really weird bye week like that. I think there are...
Yeah, that's fair.
Just in terms of receivers, the bye week options, they're killing your very top end because those guys are high draft picks. But after that, it's not like you're missing a wide receiver 3 potentially or a 2. It's either you're missing your 1 or nothing.
No, that's fair. I just think it's the fact that it's so much of my teams because I own so much of A.J. Green and Doug Baldwin.
I own a ton of A.J. Green too. It's so terrific. It's so nice to see him rebound after his 2 devastatingly bad weeks. Should I drop A.J. Green? He only had 75 yards. This is why you buy low on top guys. That's why you do it. Quarterbacks. Brady comes in at number 1 for me. Aaron Rodgers is number 2. Like, those 2 guys are always going to be number 1 and 2 for me. They have such a high floor that every single week, I know Brady didn't have a great week against the Bucs, but, let's be real here. He's playing the Jets. He's Tom Brady. He loves to throw. Same as Aaron Rodgers. Tough matchup. I don't care. He's Aaron Rodgers. When I think of my rankings, they're not projections. They're who would I play over the guy behind them. I would play Aaron Rodgers and Tom Brady. I know Deshaun Watson rules. I'm not benching Aaron Rodgers for Deshaun Watson. Trade one of them. If you really don't want to have to deal with it, I would say that Rodgers probably has better value. You get something good for him. Trade Rodgers. Play Watson. That decision is made for you. Then Deshaun Watson I have at number 3 because he rules. He's playing the Browns as well. Then you go Drew Brees, Carson Palmer, Cam Newton, and Carson Wentz on Thursday night. That scares me a little bit, but we'll go with it. Kirk Cousins, Phillip Rivers, and Jameis Winston round up the top 10. I didn't love quarterback matchups this week. I thought they were kind of weird.
I understand that. Yeah, Carson Wentz, I would definitely have lower. And actually, Drew Brees, I would put at number 2 because I'm going to throw out some numbers for you that are in my column this week. Coming out of the bye since 2008, averaging 364 yards, 3.2 touchdowns, and 25.5 fantasy points. If you take only the ones out of the bye at home or in a dome, it's 382, 3.6, and 27.6. The only bad game he had was on the road against Houston in 2015. Yes, Drew Brees out of the bye in a dome at home.
I thought he was. Is it at home? I thought it was on the road.
No, it's at home.
I thought it was in Detroit. Either way, it doesn't matter. It's a dome either way.
It was in a dome. Dude, you want Drew Brees coming out of the
bye. I have him at number 4. Like, if you own Drew Brees, you're playing Drew Brees.
Want him at 2. You want him at 2. I want him at 2. You might even want him at number 1.
I don't know, man. Deshaun Watson's pretty good. And he's playing the Browns.
He's going to be number 1 or number 2 for me. That's absurd. 382 and 3.6?
I will say, this doesn't seem to be the same Drew Brees as we've seen in seasons past. There is a 10% decline on those total numbers. So maybe put him at like 350 and 2.5 touchdowns.
50 and 3.1. Okay, I can live with that.
Listen, he's a top 5 option for me. You're playing Drew Brees. Like, maybe I'll move him ahead of Watson.
All right, and more seriousness, like, because that's nitpicking the elites of the elites. You just said you were scared of Carson Wentz. I wouldn't rank him that high, so why do you have him that high?
He's been so good. Like, it's funny because I ranked him super highly last week, which turned out to be a great move, and then I just didn't play him on Draftkings like I was going to. I don't know why. Like,
he hasn't been so good. He had the 2 games in a row against the Chargers and the Giants with only 1 touchdown.
I mean, those are 2 decent pass defenses.
I know, and now he's facing a third.
Yeah, I think you can get to Carolina.
I think you're underrating their pass defense. We had this conversation earlier this year.
Listen, the only reason that Stafford ended up just pulling off a huge fourth quarter, but their offensive line is brutal. And I know Lane Johnson is banged up, so that might be an impact. But like when I look at the rest of the quarterback matchups this week, like I get the like Cousins is in a good spot and Rivers is in a good spot, but like I don't know. I feel like I'm starting to trust Wentz more and more every week. I think he just looks good. He looks better than those other 2 guys.
Hey, that's fair, but that's actually I would put him behind Matt Ryan to go. But that's what 4 spots. So
yeah, Matt Ryan kind of scares me here. I think that Devonta Freeman's going to go wild in this game.
But see, I think some of those could come from Matt Ryan.
Potentially so, but I don't know. Just the Miami defense hasn't been awful. Weirdly enough.
It hasn't been, but there's been little highlighted spots in the passing game at times, so I can understand it a little bit. But I just have more faith in Matt Ryan coming out of a bye than I do Carson Wentz in that matchup. That's all.
I just like Carson Wentz maybe be able to pounce on the defense a little bit because it's on a Thursday night. I think they're going to have to throw a lot in this game, so I like Carson Wentz. I'm going to stick with Carson Wentz where he is. You think Mariota plays? Because I have him ranked, but I have no clue.
Yeah, I would lean towards no because it's a hamstring, and if he's going to run, which he's going to do, I just don't see why he wouldn't wait 1 more week just to make sure he's healthy. Because this is a team that's already gone down that road with DeMarco Murray and Corey Davis. I think they might have tried to hopefully learn their lesson. So I'm leaning towards no, but it wouldn't surprise me. The only person I actually really have an issue outside of this range is I wouldn't rank Alex Smith that high. I know he's been all of a sudden a new Alex Smith, but this matchup is like I still can't trust Alex Smith. Now, I could do it most weeks. I will turn my page towards him, but not in a bad matchup. Not yet.
I'm doing it. Screw it. I'm tired of not believing in Alex Smith. And if I'm wrong...
I will happily do it 1 more week with him on my bench for 250 and 1 touchdown.
Yeah, but I mean, the fact that he's running the ball a little bit more is kind of nice. If Kelsey doesn't play, then that worries me. But I think I'm pretty sure Kelsey's going to play.
That's fair. I just... maybe I'm too slow to turn things around, but his entire career, 1 season, over 20 passing touchdowns, it's just such a long time to try and change your opinion on somebody like that.
I guess so. And the Steelers, I think it's dating back like the past 10 games, haven't given up more than 20 points in a game on their defensive side of the ball. I know they gave up more than 20 last week, but 2 of those were pick sixes.
Their secondary is not far behind the Jacksonville Jaguars.
All right, maybe I will have to bump him down. What do you think about Kevin Hogan if he gets a start? I kind of like that.
I think it's intriguing. I'm just more excited for what it's going to do for the offense, and because Deshaun Kaiser was killing it.
Yeah, you were dead on about Deshaun Kaiser. I just like what he's able to do with his legs. Like, he's going to run the ball a ton.
Who, Hogan or Kaiser?
Hogan.
Oh, yeah. Surprisingly, he does run a decent amount. I don't know. Yeah, I think where you have him, he deserves to be in that conversation. I mean, he's with the McCown, Keenum, Simeon range, so I think I don't have a problem with it there.
Yeah, Minnesota's not going back to Bradford this week. They can't.
No, and I love how low you have Eli Manning. That's terrific.
What are you going to do?
I know. I'm with you.
Are you playing Roger Lewis this week?
I'm picking him up just in case, but I think their best receiver this week is going to be Roger Lewis and Evan Ingram, and if you're going against the Broncos, that's not a good thing.
Yeah, I mean, it's the next 2 weeks, because theoretically Lewis will get one of the 2 corners on the Broncos this week, and then they get Richard Sherman next week. Like, ugh, that's not good.
Yeah, the Giants are going into the bye at 0-7.
Yeah, it's not bad. Hey, you're a Giants fan. Get that number 1 pick. Get yourself a quarterback.
Hey, we could pull the Peyton Manning with the Eli Manning. Move on to a brand new quarterback, have that really terrible season, be right back in the playoffs.
Andrew Luck is not playing. I don't have him ranked, obviously, and he might not be back for another few weeks. Mariota,
I don't think he returns this year at this point.
Yeah, I mean, the fact that they're in it would lead me to believe, like, if they get out of it, then no, we're not going to see him. But if they're like a game or a game and a half back by the time he returns, he's coming back.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So Mariota, Carr, and Stafford I have in. Luck and Bradford I have out. Stafford's dealing with an ankle injury, but he looks like he's going to be fine. Tight end rankings. This is a stupid one. Stupid tight ends. I have Jack Doyle, Rob Gronkowski, Jordan Reed, and Travis Kelce all as playing. I have Greg Olsen as out because he is not going to play this week. Number 1 in the rankings, if Gronk is playing, he's your number 1 guy. Zach Ertz, Travis Kelce, Evan Ingram. I have Ryan Griffin at number 5, Delaney Walker, Austin Seferian-Jenkins, Cameron Brate, AJ Derby, and then Ben Watson. Then Jordan Reed, because I don't trust that guy. But you could have paid me $1 million. I would never have guessed this would be my week 6 tight end rankings.
And I'm looking at them right now, and I could pick out ones where I'm like, man, that doesn't feel right. But at the same time, you look at the rest of the tight ends on the list, and you're just like, nah.
Like, Ryan, listen, I don't have the utmost faith in Ryan Griffin, but I do. Listen, every week that you've played a tight end against the Browns, it's worked. So why am I stopping?
Yeah, Browns and the Giants, that's all you do. The Giants have given up 6 in 5 games, tight end 1 performances. The Browns are right up there, right behind them. So, yeah, I'm looking at those, and I'm happy you have Austin Seferian-Jenkins as high as you do. The guy's got 15 receptions in the 3 games that he's played.
Yeah, and these are PPR rankings. In standard leagues, you could probably bump him down because he gets 0 yardage, but he has a great floor for receptions. And that's, listen, at tight end, you can squeak like 8.5 points out of your tight end. Your money.
Right, 100%. And Cameron Brate's a really good ranking. I understand the A.J. Derby one against the Giants. The only concern I have there is sometimes they might use both tight ends, and it's similar to a Chargers type of situation. But the upside's there. And, I mean, Kyle Rudolph, you didn't get a little warm feeling from last night that he's turning it back around?
Yeah, not really. I want to see it again before I go back to him. I'd rather shoot with the upside of the other guys.
I would trust him over A.J. Derby. I would put him 3 spots, but we're nitpicking. And it's tight ends. What do I say every single year? You score a touchdown, you're a tight end 1. That's all it takes. Boom.
The only concern I have about Derby here is that Virgil Green comes in and steals a touchdown from him.
That's exactly what I was getting at.
Yeah, and I mean the same thing could happen to Ryan Griffin too. They could just go. Is Steven Anderson healthy again? Is he back?
I think he was last week.
Yeah, so I mean he'll probably end up sneaking in, getting a touchdown. You believe in an Ed Dixon?
No. Mercedes Lewis all over again.
Listen, Ed Dixon's a bigger part of the offense than Mercedes Lewis is, but like Ed Dixon can't catch. I think he used up all of his 2017 catches in the game last week.
It's like Street Fighter with that little turbo bar thing, and you used it all up with doing your special, and now it's depleted.
Yeah, you're just done. He's got nothing. You can go back to alligator arming everything. Do you have any faith in, like, Zach Miller shouldn't have had a touchdown on Monday night, but he did, and he was getting looked at by Trubisky, and then George Kittle me Timbers. He's up there too. I think that was more of a circumstance of the game, and they were passing so much. I wouldn't bank on him having that many targets every week, but I think he's somewhat intriguing now that Hoyer is developing a relationship with him in San Francisco.
He's intriguing, but I think 90% of his production came in the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. All right, defenses for the week. The only one that... Do I have them on the list? The one that I'm considering ranking, and I know this is weird, I kind of like New Orleans' defense.
They've been playing pretty good.
And Matt Stafford's just getting sacked over and over. And weirdly enough, the Saints actually have one of the better pass rushes in the league.
Yeah, that's interesting here. The only thing that I'm worried about, well, I would be worried about if that the Lions stop screwing around with this balanced attack approach after last week and start to go more pass happy again. And if so, then maybe Matthew Stafford throws for 303 touchdowns. And the Saints defense is a very upside risk heavy matchup.
Yes, okay, so I'm looking at it right now. Defensive lines, New Orleans, an adjusted sack rate this year, they are 10th. They have 11 sacks. That's pretty good for a guy that's getting sacked over and over and has no mobility because he has an injured ankle and an injured thigh. I don't have them in my rankings. I'm just saying it's like a DraftKings play, or if you're just in a super deep league and need someone, the downside to playing the Saints defense is always there. That's why they're not a great play. But if you want to take a risk, I mean, sacks generate turnovers. They generate fumbles. They generate scoring for opposing fantasy defenses. And I like that a lot. I just think it's a shot you can take. For my actual rankings, at number 1, I have Denver against Eli Manning and their lack of any players whatsoever. Then I go Houston, then Washington, Philadelphia, Jacksonville, the Rams, Panthers, Chiefs, Falcons, then Chargers, Ravens, Packers, Raiders, Minnesota, and then the Steelers. The one reason why I don't have Jacksonville or the Rams ranked very highly, theoretically, I think a lot of people are thinking they could be the number 1 and 2 fantasy defenses this week, but where do you beat the Rams? You beat them on the ground. Where do you beat the Jags? You beat them on the ground. What do both teams have? Good running backs. The more teams run the ball, the worse it is for the opposing fantasy defense to get those sacks, those turnovers, those touchdowns. Like forcing fumbles, not quite as likely as a sack strip or an interception due to massive pressure. So if teams just run the ball, it's not going to be a high-scoring fantasy game. I still think that if you get those two in the air, then yes, absolutely. Yeah, you can have some pick sixes available to you, but I just don't see that happening in the range of outcomes. I think it's more probable that the teams just run the ball, kill the clock, and there's not a lot of upside to be had.
Completely agree. And that's why I'm with you. I would have the Chiefs higher than them. And everybody, the Chiefs are probably owned everywhere, but the sneaky one, the Redskins. I think the Redskins are a very intriguing play. We talked about before. Defense is playing well, coming out of bye, turnover potential here in this game. So I'm with you on that. And it's a very astute observation.
Oh, well, thank you very much. We also have that's an early game, isn't it?
Which one?
Washington and San Francisco.
Yeah, it's 1 o'clock.
Yeah, so you have West coming east for a 1 o'clock
Yep.
game with the team coming out of a bye. I know they're down Josh Norman. They were my number 1 streamer of the week, so they're widely available, so you can use them anywhere.
Yep.
All right, that'll do it for the Week 6 rankings debate show. You can find all my updated rankings every day around midnight. I'll update the rankings for all the latest injuries, and I'll have them updated before the Thursday night game and the Sunday slate when I'm on live at noon on the Draftkings Facebook page. The Facebook Live will be answering your questions. I'll do my update before that, and if anything changes with the inactives, I'll update again. That is for sure. You can always ask me questions on Twitter at the PME. And Jake, tell everyone where they can find your rankings and where they can harass you.
Yeah, the rankings will be up tonight at midnight, rotoexperts.com, and then you can harass me on Twitter, as always, at AllInKid, and you get the hashtag, check the link if it's just a start-sit question, and then I do the same thing as you. You could actually do the best part about it is you could watch both of us on Sunday morning and not have to overlap, because I'm on from 11 to 12 on the Fantasy Sports Network, and then you're on at noon, so there's perfect.
Oh, you got my old time slot, 11 to 12?
Yeah, your little time slot on there with the rankings, or what do they call it? I forget. DFS lineup block, or I don't know what it is. It's with Corey and Dane. It's good times.
Yeah, it's nice to know that you know what shows you're on.
They always change the names of the shows. I don't remember. Just it's football.
Remember, people, this is the Pat Mayo experience, and you can subscribe to it on the DraftKings YouTube page for the video versions on iTunes, Stitcher, Podomatic, Audio Boom, and Google Play. Plus, you can listen to me on TuneIn and iHeartRadio. If you have any sort of streaming service or able to download podcasts for all the audio versions, you can find me and the Pat Mayo experience. For a running list of my content for the week, go to facebook.com/thepme. Follow me on Twitter at thepme or on Instagram at the PME for all the updates all the time. More shows coming this week. I won't have you let down anymore. Jake, you're on Instagram now, right?
Yeah, I'm on Instagram there too. AllInKid, same thing.
Boom. So you can just follow us on there. My Instagram's more personal. Are you putting up Instagram's tough for football rankings? Twitter and Facebook lend themselves much easier to that.
Yeah, my big Instagram post today was I finally made homemade chicken wings, Louisiana style, and they were friggin' awesome.
Oh, they were delicious, were they?
Yes.
I see. If you buy a sous vide, then you can make them even easier. You don't even have to watch them.
Ah, good to know.
Yeah, and you can control the temperature and timer from your phone via Wi-Fi. It's the best.
Nice.
I am now an advocate for the sous vide business. I need some bucks off this. I even paid for my sous vide. They could just send me a free one. I can give it out on the show, something like that. Anyway, I'm Pat Mayo. Good luck in Week 6. I'll see you next time.